Hi guys, this is Marius from the TradeMate Sports podcast, and with me I have
Alex. I'm back, mate. We're back. It's been a good 3-week break.
It has been.
Lots going on in the football world. We've missed a lot.
Yeah,
Haven't been able to cover for a while, so there is a lot to catch up on, mate.
it is. But, it's been a lot of fun with football over the Christmas period. I really like those games, so it's always fun to be able to put on the telly and watch some football when you're sitting at home and Christmas music and everything is on. I think that's perfect.
Yeah, it's probably been about 4 or 5 rounds of the EPL since we last talked, so
yeah.
Mate, there's a lot to cover today, but we'll get started as always with our quiz question of the week. This week, I think it's quite an easy one just to get us kick-started for 2020. The last 3 winners of the League Cup. So obviously the semi-finals are going on with the League Cup at the moment, so I thought I'd go League Cup themed. Yes, we'll reveal that answer at the end of the podcast.
So what do you have to say about Arteta after his first couple of games as a manager?
Yeah, I mean, it's very early days, and I think the problem with all of this is that, like, Arsenal, we've gone from, like, the worst possible run of form, like, ever. I think it's, like, since the 70s or something like that. It's our worst run of form. And then you've had someone like Arteta come in who's a former player. Like, he's very easy to get behind. He speaks very well. The style of play that he wants to implement is very favourable and easy on the eye. So, like, he's come in and you can't not like what he's doing, but it's so early to say too much because, yeah, in terms of what we've come from in terms of that worst run of form and the style of football that Emery implemented to go to where it is now, it's like, oh my God, we're going to win the league. Like, it's like, it's literally going from like 0 to, 100 straight away in terms of what you see out on the pitch. I know we haven't got the results under him.
Yeah, but like, you see a clear like pattern of play, like what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and it just brings more frustration because you're like, imagine if they made that change, that managerial change, like they should have made it like at least a month earlier, which equals like 4 Premier League games, and we're currently like 10 points or something like that. I think 11 points now from the top 4. So it's like if they made that change quicker, we'd maybe only be like 3, 4, maybe a little bit more points behind the top 4. So that's the frustrating part. But yeah, mate, it's good to see Arsenal playing some good football, and you can see, as I was saying, that Arteta has a clear strategy. I love everything that he's like. His press conferences are just beautiful to watch, because like he's so honest.
You're sitting there and eating popcorn.
He's a beautiful man, Arteta. But like, no, just everything he says with such conviction, and you believe everything he says.
Yeah.
And looking back on Emery's time, like
I guess that's good for the players too, because if you believe it, then I guess they do too. When they're like seeing it up close.
Yeah, I mean, Emery was just like all over the place, and a lot of that was because of his English problem. But to be honest, like I think that's something that they underestimated, I guess, was the lack of, like, his English was not that great. It seems like something a bit like minor, but if you can't even like communicate to the players in a proper way, then like that's probably like he's had success. He had success at Sevilla, reasonable success at PSG. I know they're a big club and they probably expected more trophies out of him. Like he has had success in other places. And he was just such a failure at Arsenal. So I think a lot of it was down to just his inability to communicate and make relationships with the players.
Yeah.
So
it's a pretty big shame. I mean, I would kind of expect someone when taking over an English club and being like a world-class manager that they should be able to really master English.
I think he tried.
Yeah.
I mean, for all accounts, he was like learning English. If you ever watch any of his press conferences, you're like, what on earth is he trying to say?
Yeah.
Like, it was very hard. You could kind of get it, but you're like, oh man, like it must be hard out on the pitch to be like, when under training situations and be like, okay, what's he really saying? So yeah, I mean, that's like the biggest thing at the moment is like you've gone from like that situation where it was so bad at Arsenal to like a situation where it's like, oh my God, we have a manager and you can see what he's trying to do. So it's like, it is kind of 0 to 100. So there is a bit of overexcitement at Arsenal at the moment. The thing is that their performances have actually been really good. It's just not the point. The points haven't come with it yet.
Yeah.
So for people who haven't been watching the Arsenal games, they're probably seeing, okay, he's been in charge of 4 Premier League games now, and he's got 5 points, I think. So 1 win and 2 draws, and the loss to Chelsea.
Yeah.
In all 4 of those games, we were the better side, I think, in all 4 of them. The FA Cup was probably, the game against Leeds was probably the only one you could debate. I'd probably say like a draw was the fair result there.
Right.
But the 4 Premier League games, we were the better side. Maybe not the Crystal Palace game. The thing with the Crystal Palace game was we should have put that away.
Yeah.
We should have put that away early. Like, we should have gotten 2 goals early, and we kind of fell asleep after we scored that first goal. But I think if you look back on those 4 games, we were the better team in those 4 games, and we should have, minimum you get something like 9-10 points out of those, but we got 5.
Yeah.
And
So is this when we check the expected goals and see if you were actually the better team?
You can, because I definitely in those the games against Chelsea, Bournemouth, and Manchester United, I 100% believe we were the better team. Maybe not against Crystal Palace.
Crystal Palace, Arsenal, 0.4, 1.2. So Arsenal, better team.
Yeah.
And they say that 0.7, that's the difference you want to have to be a clear, should have been a win.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's 0.6, but or maybe my math is bad. No, it's actually good. It's 0.8.
Yeah.
So that one was good. And then Arsenal, Manchester United, 1.5 against 0.8, so clearly deserved. Against Chelsea, 0.9 versus 1.7. I guess that one was a deserved loss. Does that surprise you?
Very much, because we were by far the better side for 80 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was just the last 10 minutes where we collapsed. So, yeah.
Was he also in charge for the Bournemouth game?
Yeah.
All right, so that's 1.5 versus 1.7, so draw seemed like a fair result there. But Arsenal created a lot of chances which didn't end up with being a shot.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think in terms of what I'm trying to say is, the pitch performances have been so much better, and have been, I think, deserving of more points.
Yeah.
It's just they're a losing side, mate. They're used to losing. They're not too used to winning. I've been very happy. If you just take the performances of the team, you should be happy with how Arsenal are going.
All right, yeah. I just also want to add that I heard a pretty interesting story about Arteta. So it was on the training ground that they were playing the rondos, and where they're standing in a circle, passing it around.
Yeah.
And then some of the players were pulling heel flicks and doing all kind of funny tricks. And he was stop, control it with your first touch, pass it with your second, because that's what you would do in a match situation.
Yeah.
And I think details like that are very important, because it's all about bringing in the right habits for the players, so that everything, when you're playing a game, everything happens automatically.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I really liked. And the other thing was that I think he also mentioned that when you play over time, you should know where to expect the pass, because then you will make that run and then you will be there to receive it.
Yeah.
So it's all it looks like he's very aware that it's all about building habits and automaticity into what they're doing out on the pitch, that you just know what you're supposed to do, and then because you've done it 1,000 times in training, and then you can execute it in the match.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that where you'll really see Arteta's strategy kind of take over and Arsenal start to dominate more games is I think he needs a pre-season with them, because they're not fit enough for his running. You should see the players after 70 minutes, they are absolutely shot, because they under Emery they never had to do that much running. Yeah. So they need to get a lot fitter to be able to implement Arteta's perfect game plan. I don't think you're going to see. I mean, it's expected that you're not going to see the best out of Arsenal for another 6 months to a year. But yeah, definitely they need a pre-season under their belts. They need some serious fitness training to implement that style.
Yeah, I guess there's or I guess it's just a week now until they play again on the weekend.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that Klopp is always mentioning too. During the season, you're really just resting, recovery, and then doing some tactics for the upcoming game, and that's virtually everything you're able to do. You're not able to really dig into and change a lot when the games are being played, especially during the Christmas program, where it's 3 days between the games and everything. So it takes time to make changes.
That's why I was reasonably happy with the results over Christmas, because they've done so much running that they're not used to, and they still got some decent results, especially the one over Man U. So, mate, it's you just got to give it time. I mean, we're going to talk about Tottenham later and how everyone kind of blew smoke up Tottenham's rear end when Mourinho rocked up, and now he's kind of dropped off. So the same thing could happen to Arsenal with Arteta. So you can't start getting too excited.
Yeah. All right. So should we move on to Liverpool then?
Yes, we can talk about Liverpool.
We can talk about Liverpool. We won't make this too long because I think I've said the majority of stuff I have to say about this team.
Kind of repeating ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. But I saw like an ELO ranking, which is sort of the same ranking they use in chess. Which had Liverpool as the fourth best team in the history of football. So I found that pretty interesting, and they were currently behind like Guardiola's Barcelona, Guardiola's Bayern München, and then I think it was Real Madrid from 2014 or 2015.
Okay.
And by beating Tottenham this weekend, they were the first team ever in the history of the like Big Five European leagues to win 20 of the first 21 games.
Yeah.
And so it's like the best points total at this stage in the season across all of those Big Five leagues, which I find extremely impressive. So it is like an historically record-breaking, amazing Liverpool team. Yeah, just really wanted to point that out. And the second part I'd like to add is that you hear all about like Solskjær and stuff, because I will touch a bit on that in the press conference, and like, there's so many injuries and all the players are out and all of the teams are struggling with injuries. I mean, City's had some defensive injuries and issues. Liverpool have also had a lot of injuries. Like Fabinho hasn't been playing since December. He's the best midfielder. And I think the most impressive part about this run of form is that we've had injuries. And despite that...
Matip was another one.
Matip's been out, and then Gomez comes back into the team, and they start keeping clean sheets when he's playing again. Their clean sheet record has been amazing with Joe Gomez in the team. So he's back to the form he showed last year, where he looked like one of the most promising centre-backs in the world. And he has like some unstable performances still, but they still keep a clean sheet. So the other part is like it doesn't matter like whether it's Oxlade-Chamberlain or Lallana or whoever comes into that midfield either. Fabinho's out, Henderson's like the man of the match for a couple of performances in a row, and that's like he's a pretty underrated player too in a team with Salah, Mane, Alisson, Van Dijk, and he still gets man of the match awards. So it's like injuries doesn't matter, like whoever comes in steps up, and they just keep grinding out results. It was also extremely interesting to see the FA Cup game against Everton. Because Liverpool played like a bunch of teenagers there. So basically it was like Liverpool. So what I like to say is that the Liverpool B team beat Everton in the league. And now the Liverpool C team beat the Everton first team in the Cup. So it's currently like Liverpool have the three best teams in Liverpool. Liverpool A, B, C, and then Everton's fourth. But what was the most impressive about that game was that they put on all of these teenage debutants. Milner got injured after like 11 minutes, and they put on a new left back there, Larouci, and he played pretty good. And everyone knew the system, they knew their roles, they knew what they were supposed to do, and they executed it perfectly. And that's the most impressive part. Like it still looks like Liverpool, even when it's like the teenage debutants and everything coming into the side. So it's just like throughout the club, from the junior teams to the reserve team to the first team, everyone knows what they're supposed to do, and they're playing in the same pattern of play, and that's just extremely impressive.
I think I don't think Jurgen Klopp he doesn't get enough credit. I don't think. I can't sing his praises enough. Like that's like the ultimate test, isn't it, for a manager, especially like when he plays his like B/C team against Everton's A team, and they come up with that result, and it just seems like no matter like if you're the third string right back or the first string right back, like you know your role, and they play it to perfection. I think it's a really scary time for everyone else in the league, because I see a difference between, because obviously Manchester City went on a run for 2 years and they were the best team in the league, and now Liverpool are starting their run and Manchester City have dropped off. I think Liverpool are less likely to drop off mainly because I think Manchester City or Pep Guardiola, his managerial style is so intense, it's so demanding. Just his like demeanor, you can see he's like quite an intense character, and that wears thin over time. You see that with the likes of Jose Mourinho. I obviously think Pep Guardiola is a lot better manager than Jose Mourinho, but you can tell that over time, I don't think it's as sustainable as Klopp's managerial style, who seems like this he seems like he's everyone's best friend. He watches press conferences. It's like talking to your best mate about how's your team going. He's like, oh man, like I know we played well today, but and he's always like talking up the opponents. Like he's being honest. He's being like a real human being. You know what I mean? I feel like that just relates to the players, and he treats the players like they're his friends. And that doesn't wear thin over time.
Yeah, I especially think that part about managers is very true with the ones who have like sort of the most negative approach to football, like the ones who like really drill the defense and everything, like Mourinho and Conte kind of managers. They have like a shorter time period where they're able to like keep the squad happy and things fun and interesting.
If the players really like you, they're just going to continue playing for you. But if after a certain amount of time, they're probably going to, they probably just get over being yelled at or being so like, stringent on tactics and all that sort of stuff. It wears thin over time. It's obviously an effective strategy, but I think in terms of the long haul, like Klopp's been able to tap into their emotional side. And I think it's scary, especially for me. I mean, as an Arsenal fan, I don't really think about it too much because I know we're so far away from Liverpool.
Well, I guess you could look at it this way. Like Arsenal, Manchester United, Chelsea, all of those teams are probably going to take like 2 to 3 years to be able to like put up a title bid. And at that time, like Firmino, Salah, Mane, Van Dijk, they will all be like 30, 31. I guess they'll be 31, like some closer to 32. If you can time that right, you're ready to sort of take over the throne when Liverpool need to do like a rebuilding of their squad. And I think that's like what one should aim for in the short term, establish oneself in the Champions League and then build from there. Because it's like Alex Ferguson never took this many points and he won the league a bunch of times. So it is going to be pretty tricky for the teams to manage that. And I've also seen some statistics on so basically there's this ranking by a guy called Paul Tompkins, writes an amazing blog, Tompkins Times. It's Liverpool focused, but they also cover some general football stuff, and one of the things they built was a inflation transfer model. So it basically measures how much money you paid for the players who actually start, like the first 11, and every single game, and then average that out. And they also adjust those transfer values based on inflation, because football inflation is pretty crazy. It's like almost 50% a year. And Manchester City is like way on top with like 600 million. And Manchester United is around 400 million. And then Liverpool's in like the 350, something like that. And then I think Spurs and Chelsea are around 300 something. Maybe Arsenal's around there too. I can't remember who of them and Spurs is like higher than each other. But it's also just crazy to see like how much more money Manchester City has put into like their team, because it's like almost twice the amount of money that Liverpool has put into it. And Manchester United is still putting in more money into that. And if Pogba had been injury free, like their value would be much closer to Manchester City's too.
True.
So that's also like a factor in all of this, like how much money, because Manchester City is just going to keep pouring in money, like whether it's like 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So they're going to be up there. So I think all of the clubs, even Liverpool, like they really need to punch above their weight in order to be able to compete against Manchester City and that spending. And eventually Manchester United, they need to like sort out the issues they've been having. And once they do, like that economy is going to give them a solid foundation to build like new title winning sides upon.
Well, mate, we can move on enough talking about Liverpool, and we can talk about Manchester United, who we just mentioned there. Really up and down form, eh? Like they had those two big victories. I think we talked about it last time we were here about Tottenham. They beat Tottenham and they beat City in 1 week. and then over Christmas they lost to Watford, they lost to Arsenal, they got smashed up by Man City last week in the League Cup, and now then they turned around and beat, was it Norwich 4-0?
Yeah.
So they're very up and down, mate. What do you think about them at the moment?
I think one can see that there are good things and there are bad things, and the good things is that they do have some amazing attackers and some very, very good young players who are starting to establish themselves a bit in the squad. And that's the positives. The negatives is sort of what we've been saying all along. I still don't see a very good pattern of play in what Solskjær is trying to do. They're good at playing on the counter-attack, and anyone can beat Norwich. They've been letting in so many goals this season. The trouble is what you're going to do when you're faced a Crystal Palace team that is happy with taking a 0-0 boring draw, and you need to break down that team, and then they're able to counter-attack and get a goal. Then things look difficult still. But right now, I mean, there's still a lot of rebuilding needed to be done on that Manchester United squad. Yeah, I mean, overcoming Klopp and Guardiola is going to be tough for any manager. I don't think Solskjær will be the man to do that long term, but maybe it's just what they need right now. Someone to sort of keep the fans a bit happy and rebuild the squad and think a bit long term and not just buy 30-year-old pluses Mourinho wanted to bring in Alderweireld for 30-40 million when he was starting to get to 30, and now he just signed him on a big new contract for Spurs, which will probably ensure they will not be able to gain any money on him. But
I think Solskjaer's a funny one, isn't he? Because I think he's the right appointment at the time, because I think they needed a kind of a revived energy around Old Trafford, because and just get a bit more pride back in the shirt, get someone that's likeable around the club and get that pride back. And I think he's done that. I think he's done a good job, but I don't think he's ready to take them to that next level. I don't think he doesn't have the experience, obviously, and I really struggle to see how he would compete with the likes of Guardiola and Klopp on that level.
Yeah.
So I think he's done his job, mate. I think he's hit his top. I think he's hit his peak in terms of what he can get out of the team that he's got now. They obviously need more better players coming in, the likes, especially in their midfield. Their midfield's pretty horrendous.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're gonna sell Pogba at some stage, which they should. Because he's just bad influence to have there.
Yeah.
Raiola with saying they're just a bad club with no plan and everything, which were some pretty crazy comments to make when you're doing business with the players and the team and everything.
Yeah,
it doesn't bode well for cooperation there in the future. But I guess, as always, money talks. So if they want to have his players, they will still pay up and get it done.
Yeah, no, it'll be. It seems like he's going to hang around Solskjaer. I just think beyond this season, I think they need to bring someone in. If it was me, I don't know if I'd bring someone in now midway through the season. But I think at least during the summer, I think they need someone like a Pochettino, or someone that's proven that they can perform right at the top, like a Champions League level, and get big victories there. So I don't think he's the man to take them forward. I think he's done a decent job with the squad that he's got.
Yeah, I mean, things went south for Pochettino in the end at Tottenham, but he still achieved so much on a smaller budget than Liverpool, and I don't know, 4th, 5th, 6th or something, almost fourth of the budget of City.
Yeah.
So he's shown that he's able to punch above his weight, given his budget, and I still think he's an amazing manager and will do a good job wherever he ends up going.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to give Solskjær a bit of flack on. Because I don't think it would be terrible to still stick with him in the summer. It depends who's available and who they can bring in. If they can get Pochettino, I would do it.
It needs to be the right person.
Yeah, but I wouldn't just bring in a manager just to bring in a new manager.
No, definitely.
But one thing I do want to give him a bit of flack on is that they have so many injuries. I mean, Maguire turned out it wasn't as bad as they feared. But still, they have all of these injuries, and guess what? He's been playing his first team in every single cup game they've ever played this season. And then you are going to start getting injuries when the Christmas period and everything hits. So I think part of those injuries are self-inflicted and could easily been avoided. Like I kind of get why he's doing it. Like he needs to win every game basically to like keep his job, and or they say he doesn't, but I still think he needs to really have results to back him up.
Yeah.
And I guess they realize they're not going to be able to win the league, so they want to win the cup to bring back this winning mentality and all of that. Which part of I think winning mentality is good, but I don't think I think that's more about what you do on the training ground every day than lifting the League Cup trophy in February, March, whenever that final is.
Yeah.
When you look at the table, I mean, Chelsea's managed to win a bit of games now, so they've started to sort of secure the spot a bit, but United are still only 5 points behind.
Yeah.
And if they had been resting some of those first-team players in the cup games and been able to be a bit more fresh, a bit more rested when playing in the Premier League games, and had fewer injuries, then they could have gotten a couple more points in the league, or would have gotten it throughout the season. And that could very well be the difference between being inside or outside the Champions League.
Yeah.
And that's what you really should be focused on, is getting back into the Champions League. And that's sort of where I think that Solskjaer's gotten the priorities wrong.
Yeah, it's a hard balance though, isn't it? Because on one hand you're like, oh, okay, we need to play our best team for the Premier League so we can get back into the Champions League, and then on the other hand you've got yourself to the semi-finals of the Cup.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh man, if we won a trophy, that could like turn our season around. It's going to look better for myself as Ole Gunnar Solskjær.
Yeah.
And then you've got the FA Cup too. So you want to these are like great opportunities to just get a trophy, because it's been a while since Manchester United won a trophy. So it's a tough balance, but you kind of do have to favour the Premier League, don't you? You have to always be putting your best team out there. I think
so, and if you're going to be able to put the best team out there in the Premier League, you need to rest a bit more in the cups. And the FA Cup, I can sort of get it if you're getting to like the later stage rounds and things like that.
Yeah.
But now we're stuck in a 2-leg tie in the League Cup, and they're losing. Yeah. So
I have to field a few of the reserves for the next game, because you haven't got much chance of winning that one.
Yeah, Mason Greenwood looks absolutely amazing. So he's going to be a top player. So some positives there are.
Yeah. All right, mate. We'll move on. As we were talking about before, we talked a little bit about Mourinho, who is now under a bit of pressure after the Spurs' last run of form, especially over Christmas, which was quite poor, and then they lost to Liverpool on the weekend, which is obviously not like a major surprise. It's not like a major, bad thing that's happened to Tottenham. Like, it's very expected. But I find it so funny because it was everyone was going crazy about how good Mourinho is when he came back in, and I remember saying to you after a couple of games, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, he's literally managed for 2 games, and we know this is Mourinho's best time as manager. Yeah. He's normally most successful over the first year or two with whatever team he overtakes, but. And then it's kind of after that where you see it drop off, and it's quite funny to see that it's just getting worse for Mourinho. His downfall is coming a bit earlier, but it's kind of on the other hand too. We can't be like, Mourinho's not that great anymore when he has only been in charge for like 10 games, and also Kane is out injured. You've had Son out injured for a bit.
That was the suspension.
The suspension, yeah. And you've also, I think, Sissoko's out for quite a while.
Yeah, he's out until like April or something, so that's a big loss.
Yeah.
And Ndombele's been struggling a lot with injuries, like smaller, like niggling injuries, and not being able to really get into the team.
Yeah.
Lo Celso had a great chance against Liverpool this weekend, but hasn't like completely settled.
Yeah.
So
it's Eriksen saga too, yeah, it's just quite funny that after 2 games or even 1 game, like everyone was like, yes, Mourinho's back. He's this amazing manager. Like, he's the best manager in the league and all this kind of stuff. And I was
they're going to make the Champions League.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I said they would make the Champions League.
Was that a fearless prediction?
Yeah, I think it was, mate. But I didn't really see this drop-off coming. And I guess a lot of it is because Son's been out with suspension, Kane injured and stuff like that. But What do you think of? You're not a fan of Jose Mourinho,
but first I just want to touch upon, like, I always find it funny, like, how we humans always think that what's just recently happened is going to, like, continue happening in the future.
Yeah.
If a graph is going like that, it's going to go all
Yeah.
the way up.
Exactly.
So before that period, like, Chelsea were doing so amazing and just winning games and having that big, 12-point gap or whatever to the fifth place. And it looked like the top four was going to be the top four, and I think I made a fearless prediction about that. And then Mourinho comes in, they start winning. Chelsea lose like 4 out of 5 games, and it's the points total is like creeping closer. And I was like, is this going to turn around now? But then, it's Tottenham, which would hit a bit of a bad run.
Yeah.
And Chelsea like win a couple of games, and all of a sudden like they're far behind, and Arsenal's kept on being unstable, and they're far behind. So they look pretty comfortable. And then with regards to Tottenham, I guess my comments are questioning whether Harry Kane is done as like a top striker, because he's getting injured like a couple of months every single year. He's had like recurring injuries to his ankles, both of them, I think. So it's a bit of and also sort of injuries which just gradually get worse, like the more times you injure it, the easier it is to injure again. So hamstring, now it's a different problem, but it's still like a lengthy layoff, and it's tough to sort of build your team around a player when it looks likely that they're going to miss like 2 to 3 months of the season, because that's a lot of games. So bit of a question mark there.
Well, he's so pivotal to Tottenham, and he's also very pivotal to England.
Yeah.
And literally every game that Tottenham play, they have to play him. And every game that England play, they have to play him. So the amount of football he's going through at the moment it's leading to those injuries. It kind of it takes you back to like what were Tottenham thinking in the summer when they sold Llorente. They let him go, and it's like you have to have. They don't have any backup striker for Kane, and he's been injured like probably more often than not this season so far. It's probably been about 50-50 from when he's been fit and when he hasn't. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I just can't believe they didn't find someone else to replace Llorente, and now they find themselves in a horrible situation because. Not only are they falling deep behind the top four, they now don't have a quality striker until March.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what they figured was that Son could play striker. Some people think he's better as a winger. I think that it's at times the team has looked better when Kane hasn't been playing, because a lot of play goes through him. He's so central to everything, and he wants to score the goals. Like that time when he claimed a cross from Eriksen or whatever that went in, which touched his hair or something. So I think that it could potentially not be it could actually not be that bad that he's injured, because it gives Son more game time up front. And at least there was some stage last season when Kane was playing, he was scoring goals, and then he got injured. But Tottenham were winning games when he was scoring goals, and then he got injured. They started winning games, playing Son up front, and then he got back and he started scoring goals again. But then they stopped winning games again.
Yeah.
So I think it actually isn't the worst thing that could happen. But it is an issue when they also have injuries in midfield, and Tanganga was playing against Liverpool, getting his debut this round in the defense. So if they also have injuries throughout the team, then that is really going to affect how well you are playing. So that's the bigger issue for me than Kane is sort of an individual player. There are talks of them wanting to bring in Giroud as a backup striker there, and I think
that would be incredible, because that's the ultimate betrayal. Because not only
the London clubs,
I know exactly literally Tottenham are like the rivals of both Arsenal and Chelsea. And you're going to go, I mean, it was bad enough that he went to Chelsea, and now he's like, oh yeah, I'll go to Tottenham too. Like the arch rivals of Arsenal. It'd be quite funny if he went there. I think he might. Actually, there's talks that he's going to Inter. Actually, that's like a big bleed. I thought he might go to a club like Aston Villa, who've lost their striker Wesley through injury. I thought he might go there and try and save them from relegation, but I doubt he'll go to Tottenham. Surely. But in saying that, he played in that Chelsea team that beat Arsenal in the Europa League final last year, and then there was some video of him. Like starting a chant about how Arsenal are like failures and all that stuff. So it's like, I wouldn't put it past him, mate. I would not put it past him if he went to Tottenham.
That's pretty funny. It would be pretty fun to see if Giroud goes there. And if he goes to Inter, I find it so funny. Like, Conte wants all the old players. Like, he wants to sign Ashley Young from Manchester United.
Yeah, weird.
Very weird. And I think Manchester United should be getting rid of Young. I guess the only reason is... based on how he's playing and his age and probably wages and everything, like, I really don't see any reason for... I don't think he should have been renewed like for the year he did for this season.
Yeah.
And apparently they want to renew it now, and Inter want to sign him on an 18-month deal and everything. And yeah, those are the sort of players you should get out, but I guess part of why they want to keep him around is sort of the stuff that's difficult to see unless you're actually inside the club, and that's what they're doing on like the training ground and the dressing room.
Very experienced player.
And I guess he's one of the guys who's actually been around and won the Premier League and things like that. So I guess I can see a point of keeping that, but overall I think those things are extremely overrated. I don't think it matters too much whether you won the Premier League or the Eredivisie or the Bundesliga or whatever. And these days you can bring in so many players who have title-winning experiences from other clubs and other leagues. And it's like in the Liverpool team, before they won the Champions League, people say, oh, they haven't won anything. It's like Shaqiri won Bundesliga, Champions League, Fabinho's won League One, Liga in France, and Wijnaldum's probably won the league in the Netherlands when he was there at PSV. So it's like people who have won titles before, and like I think the part about having to win the Premier League in order to win it again is very overrated. Okay, so top four, I guess we touched upon it. There's a 5-point gap between Chelsea and Manchester United, and both Leicester City, Liverpool, those all look pretty certain.
Yeah.
So I guess now it's a matter of whether Sheffield United will be able to catch up with Chelsea and take that last Champions League spot. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, obviously Liverpool, Man City, Leicester City. You can lock them away. They'll make the top four. And then I don't think you can trust Chelsea, even though it's a 5-point gap. I don't think you can trust them because they do have that young squad, and they have been going through run of form lately. They've had a few wins, few losses, few draws, but I can't see Man United taking that 4th spot. So you can lock them out. I think definitely. I can't see it. Sheffield United, Wolves. You struggle to see how they could slip into 4th.
I mean, the problem with the other teams besides Manchester United is that there are also many points behind.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just very tricky for them to both catch up all of that ground and then also make it through.
I still think Tottenham, honestly, I think they're the best hope of taking out Chelsea, even though they are 9 points behind.
Yeah.
Like they do, out of all those teams that are lagging behind, I think they are the best team. But I don't think they'll make it just because of the Kane injury, Sissoko also. So Arsenal will probably get there then, mate. No. You would think Chelsea would hold on, but I don't really have much, I can't put too much confidence behind them just because of that young team. And they've been a bit rough with their form lately, especially that Arsenal win. Like, I don't think they only just, that's the most annoying thing for me is that if Arsenal had beat Chelsea, and then which puts them up to 31 points, and then Chelsea had lost, that puts them down to 36. There'd only be a 5-point difference.
Yeah, and I mean at that stage it would be even closer, right? So that would put some more pressure on them too.
Exactly. So that's incredibly frustrating for Arsenal fans. But I mean, you would think Chelsea will probably get there, but I think Tottenham's the best hope. What do you think?
The advantage of Tottenham is that they were a team which was good enough to finish. I guess they finished third last year.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean
maybe fourth. Actually, it was fourth. Chelsea came third.
Yeah, because Tottenham, like before the season, they had what I was pretty certain about being a nailed-on top 4 side, and they had a side which made it all the way into the Champions League final. So they had an extremely good team, a very good squad. I still think that they have some very good depth. Now they have like a lot of injuries, but they can have like a player like Lucas Moura on the bench, even though it's a bit unstable. But having him on the bench is pretty good, and they would always have like one good defender on the bench. Their fullbacks were pretty good coverage, and then they sold Trippier, which ended up leaving them a bit light, as Kyle Walker-Peters hasn't really been playing much since he started like the first game or something.
Yeah.
Versus Manchester United, Chelsea won 3 more games. And that's sort of one of the big important points there for me. Like, it's only a 5-point difference, but 3 more wins is pretty big from like 22 games.
Yeah.
So I think that really speaks in Chelsea's favor. And then they have Bayern in the Champions League. They're gonna go out against Bayern. I guess that's my fearless prediction already. Chelsea are going to go out against Bayern.
Fearless?
Okay, maybe not so fearless, maybe more obvious. But yeah, so they're gonna most likely exit the Champions League in the next round. That will leave them, they're already out of the League Cup. And then it's just the FA Cup left. So
whereas Tottenham have Leipzig, so
they'll be stuck in there most likely.
Yeah, I don't know. Leipzig are great, so they're winning the Bundesliga at the moment. Yeah. So, but yeah, they are more likely to get through to the quarterfinals. So you'd think, as we were saying, Chelsea will keep the 4th spot.
Yeah, because they will have a much lighter schedule going throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah. All right. Do we want to talk about the relegation battle quickly, or do you want to
let's just quickly go through it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very logjam. I say from like 13th spot, you've got Newcastle on 26 points, and then you've got Aston Villa who are 5 points behind them in 18th spot. So, I mean, even 14th. Yeah, that's probably better if you go from 14th to 20th. You've got Brighton on 24 points, Burnley 24, West Ham 22, Watford 22, Aston Villa 21, Bournemouth 20, and Norwich on 14. So there's not much separating, 14th placed all the way down to 19th. Norwich are pretty far behind now. So it's an interesting race. I guess you can probably put Norwich away and say that they'll most likely be relegated.
Yeah, I'm still so surprised that they are this bad with the wins they had over like City in the beginning of the season and everything.
Yeah.
And they looked so good against Liverpool too, but they're just so terrible in defense. Conceding the most goals is never a good sign. So I guess that one looks clear, and Pookie's injured, so I'm not sure how long he's out, but he wasn't playing this weekend.
No.
And they look pretty doomed at the moment. But I would say they have a pretty decent chance of like bouncing back up again. It depends a bit on what happens with their players, because I guess they have some young promising players who could be bought by a Premier League club. Like Campbell's been doing pretty well.
Yeah.
And
their right back Aarons has been linked with a lot of other clubs too.
Yeah, and I think Jamal Lewis on left back is a pretty good player. Liverpool bought Robertson from a relegated side, so defenders can still be good even though they're playing in I think it's the centre backs which has been the main problem there.
Yeah.
And then amazing turnaround from Watford. So they're actually topping the form table of the last 5 games in the Premier League now.
Yeah, wow.
So they have won 4 and played 1 draw.
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing, and they looked so dead certain to get relegated.
Yeah.
And now they are back above the line. And I mean, before the season, one would expect them to finish like mid-table, and their metrics and everything throughout this hasn't been too bad. So it actually looks like they might just survive all of this. And Bournemouth are currently in a relegation spot, but they have so many good attacking players that I can't imagine them not at some stage for the rest of the season being able to pull out a couple of wins and sort of escape the relegation zone.
Yeah.
The main problem there has been injuries and yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'd say Aston Villa. I think they'll get relegated. I just don't think they're a good enough side to stay up. I mean, look at their form the last couple of games, just win-loss. So they're all over the place. I don't think they're good enough to stay up. It's just looking at the other teams above them. Yeah, I think it's going to be one hell of a fight between the likes of Bournemouth, West Ham, Watford. I think you can bring Newcastle into that conversation too, because they are not the greatest team. They've just been incredibly scrappy and been able to get some victories.
Scoring goals from corners and free kicks and long shots.
Yeah. I like Brighton. I don't think Brighton will go down. I think they're a good team and they play their own style of football. They don't sit back when the big teams come along. Like they play their style of football every game, and that pays dividends throughout the season. Burnley could be in a bit of strife. I don't know. It's that last spot. I think it's very hard to pick.
I think I would go with, despite them being higher in the table now, like Newcastle would still be my favorite to go down.
At the start,
it was, and I'm sticking by it. Newcastle are gonna get relegated.
Yeah, okay.
Because Bournemouth will turn around, and Watford will keep on staying just above the line.
Yeah, okay.
So that's still my pick there, and I'm sticking by it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's one hell of a battle because, as we were saying, it's not as if like it's a battle between 4 or 5 clubs. It really is a battle between about 7 or 8 clubs, really.
Yeah. At
the moment, Southampton have got themselves out of it with their recent run of form, but they could drop off again. So you could maybe even make it 9 teams. Yeah. It can all change very quickly, as we've seen with Watford.
All right, I just have one more thing to add.
Yeah.
Danny Ings.
The man.
What a player. The legend. He scored another goal and he had 2 shots in the bar. He's just on fire and looking like the most lethal striker not named Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, no, that's very true. He's probably the main reason they've got themselves out of the relegation.
They now have the same amount of points as Watford over the last 5 games, 4 wins and 1 draw.
Yeah, it's
and now they're back up to 12th, so it's amazing that escape journey. And I have to give them some credit too for sticking by Hasenhüttl.
And
not firing him like every
9-0.
other.
Remember the 9-0 loss to Leicester?
And like every other club would have been. And now they beat Leicester. It was 9-0 the first game, 1-2-1 away. So extremely strong turnaround. And well deserved that they are escaping the relegation zone, looks like. And that's cool.
Yeah, what got me fired up over the weekend? I don't know. I think it's not really over the weekend. It's just in general. The cup competitions really frustrate me, especially. I just cannot believe there's a double leg semi-final. It's a 2-leg semi-final in the League Cup. That just baffles me with the amount of fixtures we have at the moment. Like to add that into a competition that really I don't think many people care too much about. Ridiculous. I cannot believe that. And then on top of that, the replays of the FA Cup, like it just seems so stupid. Like, can we just go to extra time and get it all over and done with? And I think the FA Cup's been damaged enough with the fact that the League Cup is, they've added that, the second leg, and they overlap. I don't like the fact that they overlap the cup competitions. Like they're working against each other. I think it would be nice if we just had one competition, one FA Cup competition, or I think we mentioned this a while ago, like turn the League Cup into like a youth cup where like you can only play like under 23 players or something like that, and just make it a bit more enjoyable, something a bit different.
Then I guess I thought about that too, but I was like, maybe it's good that the managers and teams can choose what they want to do, because most of them play the junior team anyway, and then they also like throw in a Shaqiri or someone who's been injured and needs some game time. So I kind of like that part, that it's not a under 23 tournament, but all these replays and extra games, they should be getting rid of them, and it's just money and greed that's stopping them from doing so, and that will probably keep stopping them from doing so for another 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, and there's lots of complaints from coaches, which is interesting because they're not. It's also the club's fault because they're the ones, you know, wanting more money and they want, you know, as much money as possible from these extra games. So they need to put their foot down too and back up their coaches, I guess.
Yeah, that's the only way I could see it changing is if they go on strike.
Yeah, exactly.
Boycott like the entire thing, and the last amount of respect they had for League Cup went out the window when they were difficult with the rescheduling of the Liverpool-Aston Villa game, and Liverpool had to field like the youngest team ever in their history.
Yeah, I just think the FA Cup should be like an exciting time. Yeah. Like it's fun competition. I think everyone's like, oh, replay and like another competition. It's just like,
And I mean, it would cause some total outrage and would probably never happen. But I would actually really like if they gave a Champions League spot to the winner of the FA Cup. I think that would make it worthwhile to win it. It would make it mean something again.
Yeah,
and I think that's a much better way of making a Champions League than just finishing fourth, and will make all of the teams take it a lot more seriously.
Yeah.
So that's the one change I think that could save the FA Cup. Besides that, it's
that's up to UEFA though, wouldn't it be?
No, that's totally up to the Premier League.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it might be a thing to look at.
It's but they're not going to do it because like the teams who are fighting for top four would just go crazy, and there's too much money involved and everything. So
yeah,
but that's the change I would make.
Yep. What got you fired up, mate?
I was going to say bad tackles. Like Robertson should have got a red card. Aubameyang got a red card, and it's a bit tricky in some of the situations where it's like an even fight for the ball and all of that, but just it should be stricter punishment for like injuring opposing players badly, and I just don't think it's fair that you can possibly like ruin a player's career, or at the very least they miss a couple of like months through a bad tackle and then you're suspended for 3 games.
Yeah,
I just don't think that's a fair way. I still don't have the answer here, because one way could be to sort of have the player being banned for as long as the player is injured, but then again that's not really fair. So yeah, I don't have a solution, but I just think it's something that should be more strictly punished.
I think part of the problem is that getting a red card is a massive event in a game. It turns the game. And what if, I mean, like in rugby, they have 10-minute like yellow cards where you go off for 10 minutes, and it has an impact on the game, but it's not like oh my god, like that is crazy kind of like if you get a red card in like the 10th, 11th minute of a Premier League game, football game, that is massive. That makes a massive impact on the game. Yeah, maybe refs are like too scared to do that.
Yeah, I definitely like the idea of having more like hockey style with the red cards and everything, but I think I would still like if you make a very bad tackle, you shouldn't just look at like whether a player gets injured or not, but whether it was like objectively a very bad tackle, it should still be like end of the game for you and playing with one man less for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
But I would like to see like professional fouls or whatever, like you take away a goal through a bad foul or something, or a very, very big chance, and then you should get punished for 2 minutes or whatever to sort of give the other team an advantage again. I'm very much like that. All right, trading places. Let's just keep this one brief. If you were Harry Kane, what would you do in the summer? Because it looks like Spurs are not going to finish in the Champions League. So
for me, if I was Harry Kane, I'd move. But I don't think Harry Kane's going to move. I think he loves Tottenham for some reason. Don't know why he'd want to like them, but I just can't see him moving away from Tottenham. Even if they don't make the Champions League, I think he would stay and try and fight. But being him myself, I think the best place to go to would be Manchester City. They obviously have Aguero, who's aging. I don't think, and you've got Gabriel Jesus coming up in the ranks, but I think he would be the first choice, and he's going to a massive club. Arguably, you probably have to say at the moment, top 3 clubs in the world.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the move for me. I'd probably avoid someone like a Real Madrid. They don't seem as dominant as they used to be. Bayern Munich don't need it because they've got Lewandowski. PSG, they've sorted too. So I think he'll stay in England. I think that's best for his game. He suits the game of English Premier League football. So I'd think a Manchester City. I'd avoid, obviously, United. I would avoid like Chelsea and stuff like that. So I think I'd be looking for a move to City.
Yeah, because I never thought about that one, but that's actually pretty interesting given that Aguero is starting to get older. And Jesus is, still he scores goals when he plays, but is he good enough to replace Aguero, who's all-time one of the best players and strikers in the Premier League? That's a different question.
Yeah, and if he does leave, he's going to cost a lot of money, in excess of 100 million, you would think. And the only clubs that can really pay that are the likes of,
It's Manchester United, Real Madrid, and PSG and City.
Yeah.
If I didn't mention Manchester United already.
Yeah, maybe Juventus, actually, they could be in with a hope. With Ronaldo, you think he only has a couple of years left, but, he might have another 5 years left.
Yeah, he probably has. I heard, a friend of mine who's he's one of the editors at, the Norwegian fan club for Juventus.
Yeah.
And apparently there was some study which said that Ronaldo had the body of a 23-year-old or something. He'll probably play until he's 40. No problem.
Probably he's a machine.
I would find it interesting because United could afford to buy him, and if Alex Ferguson was still the manager, Kane would have been bought by Manchester United a long time ago. I think. Because he's just the super typical British striker.
Yeah.
And those always ended up at Manchester United and winning titles and stuff there in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
And it would be actually interesting because now that Tottenham are out of the Champions League, then it wouldn't, because I wouldn't go from Tottenham in the Champions League to Manchester United out of the Champions League. But if both of them were out and you had to put a lot of money on the table, it could be interesting.
Mate.
But then, they do have a lot of good strikers, so probably not.
And you are the Bournemouth owner, mate. Are you sacking Eddie Howe after their terrible run of form lately?
No, it's mainly been down to injuries. And they just have so many good attacking players when everyone's fit. So, if one thing, then maybe they should sack the physiotherapist and the fitness coach or something and bring in someone who's able to keep their players on the pitch. But David Brooks been out all season. He's amazing. And Joshua King, he's always struggling with injuries, but he's good when he's fit. Same with Callum Wilson. And then Harry Wilson's, I guess, the top scorer still with 6 goals. So he's been pretty good on loan. And then Ryan Fraser is the whole contract thing, and he's probably leaving in the summer. But last season he had a crazy season, and this season he hasn't been anywhere near it.
Yeah.
But still, that's, 5 or 6 players I listed, which are all pretty good. I wouldn't mind having them in pretty much any squad in the Premier League. I don't think they should sack him. I think they should stick with him because I'm pretty sure he'll find a way to keep them up. Okay. And if they go down, he's the sort of coach which could get them back up again. And with that attack, I think they probably need to sell at least one player, maybe 2. But they would still, they're losing Fraser anyway, and then maybe sell one. So. But with that attack, they would still be able to bounce back up again. So I would just stick with it.
Faithful man. Yeah. Like it. All right. And the answer to the quiz question this week, we have come to the end of the podcast. So do you want to have a quick guess, mate? Last 3 winners of the League Cup?
So my first answer is the League Cup. I don't care. Who cares? But I'm going to go with Manchester City twice and then, I don't know, Arsenal. No, not Arsenal. They don't win things. Yeah. Chelsea for the last one.
Yeah, I actually meant the last 3 winners of the League Cup, as in the last 3 clubs that won.
Yeah, that was what I meant.
Yeah, I know. I meant like the last 3 clubs that won the League Cup. So not the last 3 winners, but I guess I didn't really explain that too well. Yeah. It doesn't really matter anyway, because the last 3 winners were Manchester City, Manchester City, and then Manchester United won it in 2017. Manchester City won it in 2016, and 2015 Chelsea won. So the correct answer was Chelsea, Manchester United, and City, but I understand if there was some confusion there.
All right. So thank you guys for watching. If you like this content and want us to make more videos like this, then please subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up. And it's also pretty cool if you follow us on our social media channels, and if you write comments on YouTube, on Facebook, whatever, we will reply. And we would love to get some questions and topics that you want us to cover on the podcasts, and we will totally do that. So yeah, thanks.
Cool. See you guys.